Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Senior Fellow at the Media Research Center. Of course, a lot of you are wondering what's missing on Monday, October the 1st, 2018, here in the United States of America. Well, what is missing is the ninth Supreme Court Justice. That would be Judge Brett Kavanaugh. But as you have been watching the episodes of As the Day Turns or Another World or whatever your daytime drama may be, you now know that we're going to go into another week where we're going to sit back and have a ask for FBI investigation of a person that has already had 6 FBI investigations done on him against now allegations and accusations that have no corroborating witnesses and no evidence that has been presented. So what really is happening here in the United States of America, not just if you look at the Judge Brett Kavanaugh issue, but what has really been going on for maybe the last 8 to 10 years in the United States of America? Well, I will tell you very simply. It is the fact that we are moving away from the rule of law to the mob rule in the United States of America. Think about during the confirmation hearings of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. There were over 230 arrests in the Senate hearing room. If you recall, the night that President Trump was supposed to announce his nominee for the Supreme Court, well, the mob was in the streets. And many of them held signs that, well, it was just fill in the blank. They were going to be against anyone who President Trump put forward to be his Supreme Court nominee. But it's not just this recent evidence that we have seen of what I call mobocracy, the rule of the mob, instead of the rule of the law, especially our United States Constitution. It is something that has been occurring. Well, let's go back to Occupy Wall Street and how we all of a sudden had people that just squatted down and they would threaten, intimidate, and try to coerce people that were just going about their everyday lives. We know that lots of parks had these people just camping out. And for whatever reason, the police and local authorities did nothing about it. You go back and you think about what happened in Ferguson, Missouri. The mob took over there as well. And they did not wait for the truth. They did not wait for the rule of law. They instead, well, they destroyed a man's life, a law enforcement officer who was protecting his own life. And what is so sad about what we see happening with the rise of the mob in the United States of America, and our dear friends at the Media Research Center, they always document this. It is the propaganda and it is the complicity of the liberal progressive media machine that is out there putting out false narratives. In Ferguson, Missouri, it was hands up, don't shoot. Even though we knew that that was not true, it continued to be promulgated and proliferated by that media. But also, let's think about the rise of Black Lives Matter. And how is it that we can have a mob that takes to the street and they shout things like pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon, or what do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them now? Here in Dallas, I recall the night that a mob took to the streets here, and 5 Dallas police officers and also a Dallas area transit officer, they lost their lives. But they lost their lives standing up for the rule of law. They lost their lives trying to protect the mob, even though they were being targeted by someone that, well, he sympathized with the mob. And speaking of sympathizing with the mob, how is it that we have people in the media? How is it that we have politicians, such as Representative Maxine Waters, who issued out a, well, let's be very honest, a mullah-like fatwa that said that you should accost, assail, and assault people because of their political beliefs, because of the fact they work for a certain presidential administration that maybe you don't like. So now the mob has taken to restaurants, the mob has taken to theaters where people aren't allowed to enjoy a meal. But then in Washington, D.C., we saw the results of the call of the mob when GOP senators and members of Congress were under fire because of the fact that they were just Republicans. They were just practicing a baseball game, a charity baseball game. But yet they came under fire by someone that, well, he was a far left socialist. But instead of hearing the condemnation of the actions of that individual, you even had someone on MSNBC by the name of Joy Reid that tried to justify the shooting of Representative Steve Scalise because of his voting record. See, that's what happens when the media is complicit with stirring up the mob and driving them into the streets, when they are complicit in dehumanizing people, and delegitimizing people, turning them into nothing but targets. We see that with Brett Kavanaugh today, where the truth is not being told or reported on many of these other media outlets. So now he's being called a serial rapist and a sexual predator, which are not true. But look at what happened on the inauguration day of President Donald Trump, when all of a sudden the mob took to the streets and destroyed property. Look at what is happening on our college campuses and university campuses, where violence reigns supreme if a constitutional conservative tries to go and speak on one of these campuses. How is it that we have the rise of a group called Antifa, which is supposed to be about anti-fascism, but yet their whole reason for existence is to keep you from having an opposing viewpoint? We're moving away from the rule of law in America to a mob rule. And that's not how the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known will continue to survive. And the important thing that we will see is that whether or not the rule of the mob would derail a good man and his quest to be a Supreme Court justice. No one is arguing about his qualifications, but false allegations and the rule of the mob can destroy anyone.